Okay, class. So this should be the second week of the school year. So hopefully you had a good weekend. So for my online students, keep in mind that this is going to be including on your first or on your second week. And keep in mind that there will be work for you after this PowerPoint presentation. So just check out Google Classroom, what type of work it will be. So this is Guam history introduction. Oops. Okay, so our objectives are discuss the differences between myth and legend, and this, like how this affect Guam history is told. Discuss the origins of the Chamorros. Discuss the importance of the historical artifacts. Discuss the importance and the meaning of the arrival of the Spanish. So these are all the things that we're gonna learn today. So I always put the objectives to let you guys know what we're gonna learn today. So to not keep you in the dark whenever we're talking about something. So myth versus legend. So you're probably familiar with these two right here. This is a story about Punten and Puna. So you're going to be able to identify if it's a myth or a legend. So let me talk about myth first. Myth are stories that are told within generations that are often fictional. So to put it simply, these are stories that cannot be proven whether they're true or not. So some people could be saying that, oh, these are made up stories. Oh, these stories are true. But anyway, they cannot be proven to be correct. So an example of this is in the in the Chamorro myth, Puntan and Puhuna. It talks about how the earth was made by these two siblings, Puntan and Puhuna. And it goes on. So if you want to learn more about that, you can do a Google search and read about it. Legends, stories that are told within generations are factual, usually with evidences. So legend can be something like the arrival of Magellan, right? So the arrival of the Chamorros. Why is this considered a legend? Because there's evidences about it, right? So there are written evidences, there are recorded evidences that proves that it actually happened. So Punta and Puna cannot be a legend because there's no proof that it actually happened. But the arrival of Magellan, it is a legend because there's a proof that it happened. So the first arrivals. So you might be wondering, so where did the Chamorros come from, right? Like a lot of people are saying they came from the Americas, like from Native American tribes. So we will discuss that right now. So first of all, let's talk about the claim that Chamorros came from Native American tribes. The reason why I disagree with that uh, is because Chamorros are are actually it's because they're basing that on the arrival of yam from South America. You know, like how there's like yam here in Guam, right? But there's also yam in other Micronesian islands. So they're basically basing it on that. We're not really sure if Chamorros came from South America just based on that evidence. So it's really hard to say that's a fact. It's really hard to say that's a legend. But what we can prove is that like Chamorros came from Asian islands or countries like Taiwan. So basically, a lot of EOG professors now agree that Chamorros actually came from either Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia. So they sailed here through boats more than 2,000 years ago. And then they arrived here, although they were different groups. As time passed by, of course, they became one. And now these are the Chamorros that arrived to Guam. So over here, according to some professors, like what I said, so if you want to learn more about this, you can send me an email or you can just post it on the Google Classroom. Like, sir, I'm still confused about this. Like, where did the Chamorros really come from? You can ask me more about that. But the conclusion that a lot of professors agree with now that Chamorros came from countries in Asia. So these are artifacts that show like how Chamorros lived in the past. So you're probably familiar with the Sinahi the sling stone. I'm not really sure what these are used for, but these are some artifacts that you can find, and a lot of them are still used today. So you might know what this is. You might know what this is. So artifacts. So why am I showing you this? What do you think so? Okay, so have you heard of the situation in Retidian right now, where a lot of Chamorro artifacts are being destroyed? This is very important because these artifacts show the way of life the ancient Chamorros lived in. So I'm not really sure which specific year was this from, but these are artifacts that show like how former Chamorros lived. So if right now there's construction going on in Retidian, a marine base, so a lot of these are being destroyed, and that's why like a lot of Chamorros today are protesting about the buildup of the base. So why do you think Chamorros will find these artifacts super important? Think about it yourself. You know, like nowadays, like a lot of Chamorros are discussing about their identity almost being erased, and destroying those artifacts would add more erasure to the identity of the Chamorros. And that's why they find these artifacts super important. They even try to prevent the construction of the base from happening because it could erase their identity. Okay, so this is a very important part to talk about, the word ancient. So according to the definition, it says belonging to this very distant past and no longer existent, right? But the problem with this word is the first bullet point says Chamorros are still in existence. So are Chamorros considered ancient? What do you think so? And the thing is, they identify 1500s as the first recorded history in Chamorro of the Chamorros. Is that really ancient? 1500s and so forth is not ancient if you want to base it on definition. And it's the thing, you know, your Guam history books teaches that 1500 Chamorros, 1500s Chamorros are ancient Chamorros. Honestly, like 1500 is so recent. If you look other countries, like you can find out like what happened in their 1500s. But suddenly for Chamorros, since there's nothing much recorded about them, like 1500s is already an ancient, right? Other than the general fact that Chamorros came from Asia and settled here thousands of years ago, they do not have a recorded history beyond 1500s. So, according to our history books, basically the Chamorro history already begins at 1500s, which is not true because Chamorros has been here since 2000 years ago. So basically, we do not have anything recorded from 1400s, 1300s, 1100s, and so forth. The only thing we have recorded was from the arrival of Magellan and so forth. So I'm going to introduce you to this guy named Christopher Columbus, commonly known as the man who discovered America and thought that the world was smaller than it actually is. So if you look at this meme on the right, it says that's a nation you got there. It would be a shame if someone discovered it. Why do you think I posted this meme? If you say that it's because it wasn't him that discovered it, you're correct. Because Christopher Columbus did not discover America. Who discovered it? The Native Americans. So this is the thing about Christopher Columbus. He sailed to the west, and then when he arrived to the Americas, he thought that was India. So when he returned to Europe, like, oh, he was like, oh, I found China, I found India. He kept saying that. But when he returned to the land that he found, he finally realized that's not India. But the thing is, well, you know what he called the Native Americans? He started to call all of them Indians, right? So that's why, like, there's a confusion. Oh, who are the real Indians? Is it the American Indians? Is it the Indians from India? Well, the real Indians are, of course, from India, and American Indians are just called American Indians because they're called like that by Christopher Columbus. And how does this relate to Guam history? I'm gonna explain that a little bit. So I explained this already. Okay, so how does this relate to Guam history? So before I talk about Magellan, let me talk to you about the Treaty of Tordesillas. So in Treaty of Tordesillas, Spain and Portugal were in conflict of like seafaring routes. Like, oh, where can we sail? Where are we not allowed to sail? And the thing is, Portugal already had a lot of its territories in this route. But for Spain, they wanted to get into the Spice Islands. So where's Spice Islands? You're probably wondering. It's right here. It's in Indonesia. This is Indonesia right here. So where's Guam in this map? Probably right here, right? So this is the thing. This is how Magellan got to Guam when he did not mean to do that. So Spain, of course, Spain is somewhere here. Magellan is actually a Portuguese, but he sailed for Spain. So Magellan sailed here. He stopped by South America and kept sailing all the way, all the way, all the way here. And then he landed here in Guam. How come Magellan couldn't sail over here and then just go over here to Indonesia, right? It's because of Portugal was blocking them, or else there would be a war or conflict between them. So he had to sail this way and found his way here in Guam. So over here, I copied the meme that Christopher Columbus had. So it says, "Nice island you got there. Would be a shame if someone discovered it." So Magellan is basically being credited for discovering Guam, but was he really the one that discovered Guam? No, right? The Chamorros discovered Guam. So over here, since Magellan couldn't sail east to basically to the other side, he sailed all the way to the west until he landed in Guam. When he landed in Guam, his crewmen were either sick or hungry, so they were dying due to the lack of vitamin C, and they were really hungry. They were eating like the sole of their shoes already. Upon their arrival, the Chamorros thought that they were there to trade since they gave them food, and they stormed Magellan's ship and stole some metals. So this is the story according to Magellan. According to Magellan, when he got to Guam, the Chamorros just stormed his ship and started to steal stuff. But that's not the whole story. You gotta listen up for the whole story, okay? So this is the whole story. When Magellan got here in Guam, the Chamorros offered him food. They had good interactions with each other. Like, hey, you have men that are sick, so let us take care of them and all that stuff. So the Chamorros took care of them as they got here. But the thing is, the Chamorros also mistaken that as already a signal for them to be able to get anything from their ship. So they rushed to the ship and took iron. So how did this guy reacted? This guy and his man started to kill Chamorros. They burned huts. They killed a lot of Chamorros. And you know what they called the island after? They called it the Islas de los Ladrones, means the island of thieves. But was it really the island of thieves that provided him like like the Chamorros provided him all that he could have, and then just because of a misunderstanding, like he's suddenly calling everyone a thief. That's why like the rest of the world by that time knew Guam as the island of thieves. Like, oh my gosh, I better not go there. So after Magellan was replenished with food, a lot of his men were healed from their sickness. They decided to still find the Spice Islands, which is what country again? Indonesia, right? But he ended up landing in the Philippines because Philippines is a close country to Indonesia. But the thing here is, oops, sorry about that. He landed here in the south of Cebu, in an island called Mactan. Over here in the south of Cebu, he encountered a Muslim leader named Datu Lapu-Lapu. And at that time, like he was with a lot of Catholic priests. So they were also trying to preach to Lapu-Lapu and his men. So Lapu-Lapu did not like that. And they had a disagreement with a lot of things. And they fought and they killed Magellan. So after Magellan was killed, his men just fled and continued their journey because they freaked out like, wow, our leader's dead. Like, what are we going to do, right? I mean, like, for me, honestly, like, there's a lot of places they could have been in the Philippines. They could have just been to Baguio or Cagayan de Oro. And out of all the places, they ended up in the South Central, right? So that wasn't a really good decision for them. And that's why they got killed. And only one of Magellan's ship, the Victoria, would come back to Spain and would be the first to successfully circumnavigate the world. What does this word mean? Circumnavigate. Before you do a Google search, I'm going to tell you. Circumnavigate means it's the first ship to be able to sail all around the world, right? So why is Magellan being credited about this? Like he got killed in the Philippines, right? He was a part of the ship. Well, he was the leader of the whole voyage. That's why he was still credited for that. Nowadays, people are saying, oh, who was the first man to circumnavigate the world? It's Magellan. But you can correct them. No, Magellan wasn't that in the ship. Like, it wasn't in the ship. That was just a man. So you can always correct those people. So now what? Since Magellan's arrival, the Spanish would come back and forth to Mexico, Philippines, and Guam. So you will learn more about it in the next few days. They would eventually form a galleon trade. So a galleon trade will be a trade route between Philippines, Guam, and Mexico. The Spanish would bring animals, plants, and even diseases here in Guam. So you're probably wondering, oh, how did that carabao get into Guam? Well, the Spanish brought it. Well, what about that tangan tree, right? The Spanish also brought that. And from 1521 to 1668, the Spanish would claim Guam as their territory, although not officially. They would come here back and forth, although they had no claim or they had no right to the territory. Objectives. Discuss the difference between myth and legend. Were we able to do that? Yes, right? Discuss the origins of the Chamorros. Did we talk about like how the Chamorros came from Asia? Discuss the importance of historical artifacts. Did we talk about Reptilian? Yes, right? Discuss the importance and the meaning of the arrival of the Spanish. Yes, right? So if we were able to achieve all these objectives, then we were able to learn what we're supposed to learn today. Honestly, if you're watching this in the video and if you feel like I'm speaking fast, you're more than welcome to pause anytime. This might be a little bit exhausting to listen to, especially when you're at home. Like, oh, why do I have to listen to this, right? So, I mean, like, oh, this is so boring and all that stuff. I mean, like, honestly, like listening to history when you're not really in front of your teacher can get really boring. So make sure you listen to this according to your own comfort, but make sure you try to pay attention all the time. Okay? So I will stop this now. Your homework will be posted in Google Classroom.